Hello and welcome to the state capital of South Carolina, Columbia. That's right, today's dashcam drive-through video of a town in South Carolina focuses on the capital of South Carolina. We're going to be taking a quick drive through, definitely not going down every street, crack or crevice in the town, in the city. This is definitely a city. I'm not even going to use town, I'm going to try not to. Um, Anyway, Columbia is in Richland and County. I think there are portions in Lexington County. You wouldn't know it. There's no signage up letting you know what, when, where, how. We are on Bush River Road right now, which is Highway 378. So basically, I was going to Irmo on this day. So Columbia, I did make a special trip to go through. And I got directions to the State House first. So we're going to the State House. And then I got directions to Williams-Brice Stadium. And so we're going to ride by Williams-Brice Stadium as well. Williams-Brice Stadium, of course, being the home of the South Carolina Gamecocks and Gamecock football. But to get there, we have to go through the rest of the town, the rest of the city as well. This is a 26-minute and 12-second video, and I'm going to try to talk through the entirety of it because I've heard negative feedback on the music, and I get that. I'm not really looking forward to speaking for that long. I may shut up and let you guys look at some points or whatever, but I guess what I can do is, instead of just jumping straight into the history like I normally do, I can kind of give you my own recollection of Columbia. So basically, back in the olden days, as I like to call it, back in the 1700s, when the country was just being founded, Charleston, or Charlestown, was the colonial capital of South Carolina under the British. And so so that's right on the coast, and the colony and the state are basically the same size as they were then. You had Georgia all the way to the south, and southwest, well, I don't know if it's southeast any at all, maybe a little piece. Yeah, all the way to the south, we'll just say that, completely wrapping around the southern side, and North Carolina completely wrapping around the northern side. So part of that was to keep Charlestown safe from Spanish Florida, or at least that's what they tell us in school. Who knows? And Georgia was actually a penal colony, meaning they sent a lot of British prisoners to Georgia over other colonies. Australia also was one afterward. Anyway, so basically, you had Charlestown, and then you had the whole rest of the state, and the capital wasn't, it's far from anywhere. Imagine someone living up in where present day Walhalla is. That would be a very far way away. That was where the Cherokee lived, but still, just for instance. So, the people in what they called the back country, which is now kind of what we'd think of as the Midlands and the upstate, were not too happy about having to travel so far away to get to the capital. So when the state became a state, the colony became a state, I think Charleston was the capital for a few years, but eventually they decided to move it here to Columbia. And there was no town, there was no city. It was no one. I mean, it was on someone's land. I do remember reading that in a South Carolina history book. I do not recall whose land it was. Perhaps I'll look it up and let everyone know here in a minute. But they kind of took the land directly in the middle of the state. I don't think it's geographically the center, but it's very, very close. Basically, as close as you can get when you are using probably 1,700 instruments of measurement. With, of course, no GPS, and you're relying on handmade maps and whatnot. So they selected Columbia, be the capital, and they built it basically from scratch. And as you'll see, as we get a little bit closer into the city, you'll see this is more sprawl, of course. You have more suburban type businesses. Is that a revolving sign? I think it was to the right there. I did not notice that the first time I watched this or in person. I love revolving signs. They're cool. I like them when they go really fast. That one looked like it was going really slow. I don't even know what business it was. Anyway, I don't even remember where it was at. Let's see. There are a lot of cookout billboards. They're all electric, and there were a ton of them I saw. Cookout must be hitting the Columbia market hard. Anyway, so they built the Capitol. Oh, yeah. I said it's more sprawly. And the more closer we get to the center, the more compact it's going to be. So you're going to kind of go through three different eras. You got the sprawl, which is made for the car. And then you're going to get more of a hybrid type situation where the buildings are all separate. They're not strip malls, though. So each building, each business or whatever has their own little building. Then we're going to get into the hustle and bustle, as I like to call it, downtown, where all the buildings are all together. Back when, horse and buggy, train were the types of transportation that those type of buildings would rely on. Here's a hill. There's some kind of park to the right there, or not a park, a historic site. It's green and, with trees and forested for historical purposes, basically. I'm sorry, I do not remember why. I just was stopped at a red light and read the part of the sign. Not enough to know much about it, though. And yeah, there are a lot of red lights and a lot of time stopped in this video. That's city life for you, and as I've complained before, I don't really like that. I like to drive through, but we have to do what we gotta do sometimes. And so, I'm not going to speak for a minute or two. Let's just enjoy looking at the scenery. There's an Applebee's. Bojangles. I guess I'll speak. I'll just kind of point out things. A little traffic jam here. It's a bus. Public transportation. Something South Carolina does not do very well. Okay, see, here's more of the transition to what I was talking about. Clearly, the buildings are older. And actually, we're going to get into kind of a residential type area of the city. Something's in the road there, too. While we're driving through here, I'm going to see if I can find out whose land Columbia was once a part of. Oh, Wikipedia says Hernando de Soto visited Columbia in 1540 in the spot that it was. According to WIS, which is a local station in Columbia, Columbia was the nation's first planned capital, and roughly 40 streets with each one named with a purpose, started the city out. That's kind of cool. believe that is Dreher High School to the right there. Let's see what the city of Columbia itself has to say. Okay, so city of Columbia wants you to know that they are on the bank of the Congaree River, and that the name Columbia beat out the name Washington in an 11-7 vote in the state Senate. There were no paved streets in Columbia until 1908, when 17 blocks of Main Street were paved. Here's something that I forgot to mention. The population of Columbia is about 140,000 people. It is one of the biggest towns in biggest cities in South Carolina, but not quite the biggest. I know Charleston has more than that. Columbia, when I was going to school back, in elementary school and stuff, it was the biggest, but it has been passed. I guess now we should probably start talking about the State House, because we're going to be getting there fairly soon. So the State House, let's find out some information about the State House. I know there are bronze stars on the State House to denote where it was hit by cannonball fire, as it actually is the same one from back during the Civil War. So let's read from the South Carolina State Park site about the State House. Let's just see what they got to say. I'll read it, I guess, word for word. This is on SouthCarolinaParks.com. Strategically centered in downtown Columbia, the South Carolina State House is the seat of state government in South Carolina. The State House is home to the governor's office, as well as the House and Senate chambers. So both the executive and the legislative branches are located in the State House. Okay, so you can take a tour. They also have virtual tours. You can take field trips there. We are coming up on it very soon. So the construction of the State House was from between 1855 and 1907, so it took over 50 years to complete it. It was built out of blue granite, which is South Carolina's official state stone. It is completely fireproof, and it safely stores many important state documents and house of, like I said, 2 branches of state government. The building contains several unique architectural features that can be observed from both exterior and interior, including a false dome centered within the main lobby and an outer dome made of copper centered to the outside of the building. Between the years of 1995 and 1998, an extensive renovation took place to protect the historic building from earthquakes. There's seismic isolators. So, okay, there you go. I guess there's not a listed architect. I could probably find one, but there's not one, completely listed, because it took 50 daggum years to build. And if you notice, during that time period, it was during the Civil War, so it saw a lot. Here's downtown Columbia good. You can see it. The buildings, some of them, I wouldn't call them skyscrapers, but they're tall, especially for South Carolina standards. They're tall. And let's just talk about what we see here for a little while. We already talked about the State House. We'll get to that in just a second. Now let's look at downtown Columbia. A lot of state agencies headquartered here. A lot of important people roaming the streets here every day. Probably some headquarters to some businesses as well. There's a little Amoco gas station standing amongst big tall buildings. Goodyear. Nice architecture to the building on the left there. That's a big building right there to the right. Not quite sure which building it is. Oh, and I've turned the camera. That means we're approaching the State House. And there's the State House grounds. You can kind of see it peeking through the trees. And we're putting double speed. Now we're going to slow it down to almost a crawl. There is the South Carolina State House, where the body of government in South Carolina rests and resides. Look at the palmetto trees leading up to it. It's pretty nice. Yes, beautiful building. Absolutely beautiful building. And look at that office building to the right there with all the glass panes right across the street. The past meets the present. Can't even say the future anymore because who knows what those buildings look like. Alright, so now we're going to veer off of the main drag there and we're going to head to Williams-Brice Stadium. One of my favorite places to visit in the state, and definitely my favorite place to visit in Columbia. Williams-Brice Stadium is home to the South Carolina Gamecocks of the Southeastern Conference, SEC, and if you saw that up there, that denotes the University of South Carolina campus. So we're actually, I believe, on the campus now. There's a walkway there, walking bridge. Not a walkway. Very busy day in Columbia. So let's see if we can find out some stuff about Williams-Brice Stadium. Some more than I know. Like, I think it holds 86,000 people. Not Wikipedia, Google says it holds 77,000. I'm pretty sure that it's more than that, though. Yeah, and then see, College Gridiron says it holds more than 80,000, so who knows? Let's see what the university says. The university says it holds 77,559. The Gamecocks are 302, 199, and 14 ties all time. First game at Williams-Brice Stadium was on October 6, 1934. South Carolina defeated VMI 22-6. It was dedicated as Williams-Brice Stadium on September 9th, 1972. In true Gamecock fashion, we lost that game. Yes, I use we. I did not go there, but I love the Gamecocks. When the Gamecocks take the field on game day, Williams-Brice Stadium is packed with approximately 80,000 screaming Gamecock fans. So how can you have 80,000 people in the stands when they only hold 77,000? Doesn't make any sense. Williams-Brice Stadium is recognized as one of the finest facilities in all of college football. It's one of the nicest. It's one of the best atmospheres for sure. How about that? In 2005, they sold 62,604 season tickets. Holy cow. And South Carolina ranked 15th in the nation in attendance in 2019. And just think, in 2019, we were probably terrible. The home of the South Carolina State Fair is there to the right. I've been to that once. I was too young to remember it, though. There's the stadium. You can see the stadium lights standing out above everything else. And we turn the camera to show it. Here we go. Look at that beautiful structure. Wow. Go Gamecocks. Spurs up to my toes up, as Carolina Jackpot would say. I'll shout him out. I don't really do. I started that Rooster Rampage show, but I haven't really done much of it in a long time. But you can watch the Gamecock Grind with Rooster or Carolina Jackpot's channel for Gamecock Talk on YouTube. Why do I need to talk? And okay, so I messed up right there. I was recording when I was stopped and was not recording when I was going. And I think I lost about 2 to 3 minutes of footage. So if it looks weird to you, that's why. I filmed enough of Columbia though to feel like it was a fair dash cam drive through. Remember, we're not doing a dash cam drive of, so I do apologize that I missed some of it on accident there. And to be truthful with you, I don't even remember what it looked like or whatnot. So if it had your favorite part, the place that you were waiting on, I'm sorry, but I'm not driving 3 hours again to get a 3 minute ride when I got 26 minutes of other footage and I was stopped in traffic an additional 34 minutes. I was in Columbia for approximately an hour, just about an hour exactly, from 3 to 4. I started filming at 3 o'clock, and the last time I pressed record was 4 o'clock, so it was legitimately exactly an hour. So, and then we only have 26 minutes of film. Like I said, I lost a few minutes there, so it's basically even time between driving time and sitting time. So forgive me for not wanting to attempt that again because I made a mistake. So basically, the whole rest of the ride here is just getting back to the interstate to get towards Irmo. Irmo's like 11, 12 miles up the road, all sprawled into Columbia, basically. You know, they touch, basically. St. Andrews is between, and you do go from Richland to Lexington County. There's a statue there. Looked like a soldier or a fireman, I can't remember. I thought it was a fireman when I rode by it in person, but I just thought I saw him toting a gun there, so I'm guessing it's a soldier. So, whatever I was saying. Oh, so, and it's a lot of just waiting and housing and stuff. I mean, one red light, I didn't even film because it was literally 5 minutes of just inching closer to the red light. So I did not put you guys through that. That was terrible. It's coming up here. You're going to see it jumps big. That was not because I I did that on purpose. Local Boy Outfitters too. If you've ever seen people wearing that clothing brand, the I guess factory or headquarters is up on the left too, so you can look out for that. It's right there, in fact, to the left. See the circle, white circle with the black outline. That was it. Let's see if we can find a list of attractions in Columbia. So if you ever want to come, you can kind of know what to check out in Columbia. Besides the State House, Williams-Brice Stadium, of course. So Google actually has a top sites in Columbia. Let's see what they got. They have the South Carolina State Museum, Adventure, the Columbia Museum of Art, Columbia Canal and Riverfront Park, Soda City Market, the State House, Williams-Brice Stadium, Sesquicentennial State Park, South Carolina Confederate Relic Room, Riverbank Zoo, the University of South Carolina, South Carolina Military Museum, Congaree National Park, Hampton Preston Mansion, Frankie's Fun Park. What in the world? I don't know nothing about that. Colonial Life Arena, South Carolina State Fair, the Segra Park. Let's find out about Frankie's Fun Park because I've never heard of that. I've heard of all the rest, but not that. I think I've been to all of them save the Military Museum, Congaree National Park, the Mansion, and the Relic Room, too. So, according to TripAdvisor, Frankie serves up great rides, great food, and great times. Go karts, mini golf, amusement rides, laser tag, batting cages. So it's kind of like just a conglomeration of Myrtle Beach all in one spot, except no beach. That's what it sounds like Frankie's Fun Park is. So we are quickly winding down our ride through Columbia here. We're almost out, almost to the interstate. We're almost to Irmo. And I hope you all enjoyed your ride through the city, and I honestly hope you muted me at some point because I did not enjoy talking this long. I think we're going back to music here soon. Look at that traffic jam. I mean, just a mess. This is where I was talking about if you saw it just jump all of a sudden. It's just too much traffic for me. I am someone who prefers open highway and open roads for sure. But the city life is for some. But anyway, guys, that was the state capital of South Carolina. I hope that you all enjoy it and hope you join me on the rest of our trip through South Carolina, and subscribe if you have not. Even if you hated the video, consider subscribing.